Hi, everyone. Hi. This is Hillary Ellers, and I'm coming to you from Lightworks Studio. And I want you to know that for 54 years, I've been a student of metaphysical philosophy, and I've taught a lot of that time. I also give intuitive readings to people. And so over these last 54 years, most of my life, I'm so young, but um, I've been deeply involved in this work that now I'm going to be bringing to you. And I wanted very much, before I died, to have some way to share the ideas that have made such a difference in my life. And I hope that if you follow this study that I'm going to be and am offering you, I hope that these lessons will make a deep meaning in your life and help you. And all can change through that, one at a time as we open up here. I'm videoing from my home, and I have an abundance of animals, so no telling what will happen. Now, today we may have a parade, if they come across here. Just know we're sharing a lot of our space today with four-legged doggies and kitties. I wonder if you have been searching for something in your life that will give you more meaning. It's such a strange time right now with the COVID, and I feel if COVID weren't going on, it would still be a strange time. And it's the nature of what is happening now. Esoterically, there's a teaching about the changing of the age, and that we're right at a change point, and literally the literal vibration of the earth is changing, and that's requiring and calling upon us to change the frequency and the vibration of our physical bodies, and that's really hard to do. I feel a lot of the stress that people feel has to do with that shift our bodies are struggling to make. And one of the ideas or thoughts is that a lot of people can't make that shift. And if they can't, this is the time they're going to be moving on out of the physical dimension. So I want you to know that my teaching reaches out to everybody who's open and interested. The entire teaching is offered through donation. And so give what you can. And if you can give more, and it will help to balance the people who can't give as much. But don't ever let money stop you from the studies. And I don't want money to stop you, so. My teaching is based on these last 54 years that I've been a student and a teacher. And in my teaching, I'm going to be weaving a lot of personal experiences with the philosophy that I've adopted. And the philosophy that I am following is metaphysical. And if you're not familiar with that term, this relates to the idea of how energy works, the physics of energy. And meta relates to beyond the physical. And so metaphysics is a philosophy of simply how energy works beyond the physical plane. And I feel it embraces a teaching of also of how energy operates on the physical plane. And so a lot of the teachings have to do with you learning how to balance your energy field, just to balance yourself. And often when people find out that I give readings, and I do intuitive readings, they're very interested in, well, how did that happen for you? You know, and I really, most of the time, don't tell people what I do. A lot of times, if they ask what I do, I just say, I'm a counselor, which is so true. And, but then, according to how I feel, I may say, you know, I do intuitive work with people. But when people find that out, almost always, they want to know, how did this happen for me? You know, what came about? And people assume several things that aren't true. People always think I'm reading everybody. You know, like you can tell if they find out I do intuitive work, it's almost as if they pull their clothes on tighter, or if they have on a sweater, they close their sweater, or they cross their arms, or, you know. And what's so funny is this is my work. It's like you going to work. You don't want to work all the time. Neither do I. So the last thing I'm doing is tuning into everyone. On occasion, feelings come through for sure, but it's not at all that I am purposely trying to tune into people. So I always say, relax, relax, you know, don't worry. And I even have a very strong sense of responsibility that I don't want to be poking around in people's energy without their permission. And so people are safe with me. Another thing people assume is that not only that I'm reading everyone all the time, but they assume that from the time I was born, I knew all kinds of stuff most people don't know. And not true. I do feel that I was very sensitive, and I was very spiritual. I still am. Both of those. I haven't stopped being sensitive or spiritual, but that is one thing from the beginning that is true for me. One of my sweetest memories is of hearing my mother's voice when she prayed with us at night, when we were going to bed, and we'd say our prayers. And I can just remember her voice was so steady and calm and strong and firm, but malleable too. And her voice, you know, is still with me. And I had that guidance. My mother was a very spiritual person. I pray with intensity when I pray. And we'll get into that more. I'll be teaching you more about prayer. There's so many things we're going to cover. I wrote down ideas for classes, and I think so far I've written down 50 some odd topics. So we have tons of stuff to study. And if you have particular interest, let me know, and I will develop a class for you about that. Or any questions you have, let me know. And every so often in the teachings, we'll do a teaching that covers questions and people's questions. So I want to share with you how this all began for me. And I think it's a good beginning point. And so, as I said, some of the time the teaching will be very personal, like today. And some of the time it'll be more sort of philosophical. One of the things I want to do very much is to bring metaphysical teachings down to earth. A lot of times I feel that metaphysics stays sort of intellectual. And I respect very, very much the work of people like Alice Bailey, Madame Blavatsky, who were some of the theosophical teachers and writers. And yet I must admit, their work is so heady, it's so intellectual, that for me, I can only read a few pages. I start getting sleepy. I mean, that's how it affects me. And, or I read a paragraph or two, and I just have to stop and think, what does that mean? What are they saying? And I find at times that deeply esoteric teaching is very hard for me to apply to what's going to happen today in my life. How am I going to live my life differently because I'm doing this study? So hopefully in our teachings, I'll be bringing it down so that you can use it and so that it will make a difference for you. And once in a while, I'll even be making suggestions to you how to use it. Like, you know, take this teaching and apply it to blah, blah, blah. So, in the beginning, I was 24 in the beginning. I am, this April 2022, I will be 78. So long time ago, long time ago, when I was a baby at 24, I went through what I think of as a spiritual crisis. And my spiritual crisis had to do with this burning desire I had to understand God as best I could. You know, I knew God was way big and way more than me, a human, whatever, but I didn't know what God was. And I wanted to understand, what is God? Who is God? How does God relate to me? How do I relate to God? What's our real connection? And I began praying to receive that understanding. I'm the mother of 3, so every day when I had things organized, at that time when I was 24, I didn't have all of my children yet, but when I had my life in order, you know, kids taken care of, hubby taken care of, me taken care of, then I would pray. And I would literally, I got down on my knees at the side of my bed and I prayed. And I just kept asking for deeper understanding. And one day, one of my neighbors, who was a girlfriend of mine, knocked on the door. So I stopped my prayer and I went to the door. And when I opened the door, I could tell that she reacted to me like, you know, like, and I had the feeling, I just knew this somehow, you know, that I must have had a lot of light around me. And she couldn't quite tell that I had light around me, but she knew something was different than usual, you know? And she reacted to that. So I was gathering in light for sure. And then around that time, when I had such intensity of desire, to be more connected to God, these strange, quote unquote, these strange things started happening. The doorbell would ring, and I would go to the doorbell. You can guess, nobody there. And this happened over and over. I thought probably I had a short in the wiring. That's just what I started to think. Then I would be in the kitchen fiddling around, cooking or something, and the light would go out. And I would go over to the light switch, and the light switch was literally turned off. And I'd turn it back on, flip it back up, and go back to work. A little later, darkness. I'd go over, the light switch was turned off. I'd turn it back on. And it's interesting because it wasn't scary at all. Like if you told me this was happening to you, I'd go, ooh, I bet you were a little nervous. But there was nothing about what was happening that felt scary. It didn't feel negative at all. I didn't know what was happening, but it didn't make me afraid. So the crescendo of a lot of this happened one night. This is back when I had to wind up a clock to get it to keep running. My husband and I were sitting in the living room talking, and we were sitting kind of across the room from each other, just talking. And I was holding the clock, and I was winding it up and setting it for the alarm to go off the next morning. And I set the clock down on the table right next to me, and I moved my hand away from it, and the clock flew across the room. And I mean, there was no way that I threw that clock. And my husband and I both witnessed this. And at times when miracles have happened, and I have one lesson for you about miracles, and I thought about it to describe miracles I've experienced, and it was like 30 some odd miracles I can remember, and who knows how many I forgot, But when miracles happen, it's like, wow, that's amazing. How did that happen? But again, it wasn't scary. So what I began to put together, 2 and 2 equals 4, or in my case, it didn't really, but, this is what I thought. Someone from Spirit is trying to communicate with me. That's all I could think. My father-in-law had died just a few weeks after my husband and I got married. And I was so crazy about him. He was the sweetest man. In fact, I really kind of think if he'd been a young man, we would have gotten married. We were just well-suited, and we got along, and we loved each other. He died. So I thought, I bet my father-in-law's trying to communicate with me. And so I lived in St. Petersburg, Florida. I don't know how many of you know about St. Pete. I'm not even sure if this is still true. At that time, when I was 24, St. Pete was a hotbed for spiritualism. And spiritualism embraces seances. So there's a medium, the quote-unquote psychic, there's a medium, and the medium channels messages from people who are on the other side of life. And she channels, a lot of times, the messages to people who are there that evening in the circle. Because in a seance, people generally sit in a circle, they turn off all the lights, sometimes they lock the door, which I'm a little claustrophobic, so that makes me a little uneasy. But I guess they do that so no one will think someone is sneaking something to the medium, maybe information or who knows. But anyway, my husband and I decided we'd go to some seances and see who's trying to communicate with me. So we showed up at a seance, our first seance. We walk in. Here's this circle of nice people. The youngest person there had to be 80. We're like 24. All the people there looked at us like, who do you know that's passed over? You know, like we were too young. And I felt so out of place and kind of awkward. But we went to the seance, we experienced it, and guess what? Not one message came through. I couldn't believe it. You know, here I am making myself available to whoever wants to communicate, and no communication. So we went to, you know, a few seances, same thing. No messages, which I'm surprised because usually almost everyone gets some kind of message. All right, so no message. Well, right around that time, my husband and I went on a vacation. And we were visiting people that, you know, we were just meeting some, of course, some new people and such. And I met a woman, and somehow we got into a conversation, and it came up, all these strange things going on. And she said, ah. And she pulled me back to this other room in her house, and she had all these books, tra-la, or whatever, like I do. She had all these books, metaphysical books, and she said, here, doing, here, doing. And she gave me a few books on Edgar Cayce. And we started talking, and she said, do you believe in reincarnation? And I'd never thought about reincarnation. It's sort of like, do you believe in it? I never even thought about it. But when she talked to me about it, it was like an immediate hit. Like, of course. For me, at that time, that made perfect sense. Like, of course, I could feel it or see it or something. It made pieces fit together for me in my life. And sometimes I've wondered if I have gotten into my spiritual philosophy to relieve myself of pain, because I had so much pain about the injustices in the world, about horrible things that happen to innocents, to the animals or other people who are seeming just so innocent. And it was so hard for me. And when I started to think about reincarnation, that there was a reason these things happen. And we might not be able to see why, because it may have come, the reason may have come from a prior lifetime. Gosh, it was such a relief. It lifted enormous pain from me. And so I've wondered, you know, is this my Band-Aid? Or is this really, truly my belief? And I think it's both. But Band-Aid here is not a bad thing. You know, Band-Aids keep germs out, right? It's not a bad thing. So I started my long journey at that time into metaphysical philosophy. Well, I read the books she gave me. We went home. I read the books just like, you know, 24/7. I couldn't get enough of it. And I closed the page on the last book she gave me, and I thought, where do I go from here? I can't stop. I've got to have more. It was like the desert receiving rain. You know, it was like parched earth. That's me. I'm the parched earth. These lessons, this information, this was water, and I needed more. And I didn't really know where to go. So she had given me the name of an organization, Universal Harmony House. Now, where she got that from? I suppose she had heard of it or something. Well, I looked it up, and I didn't find anything exactly like that, but the closest thing to it, I called to see if they had services or meetings or whatever, and it was a music store. You know, I just kept hitting dead ends, and I was like very disappointed. Well, of course, the rain falls on the desert, and I got an answer, you know. Okay, there was a Sunday supplement to the newspaper in St. Pete, and it listed all the church services. Actually, it was a Saturday supplement about Sunday. It listed all the church services and the meetings and whatever. I never read that. I wasn't interested in it. I had a church I went to, and that's a whole nother story, which I'll try to fit in. But so it's the weirdest thing. I can remember it just like it happened an hour ago. I remember what I was wearing. I remember where I was standing. I was leaning over my kitchen table. I had the supplement open, and I had my finger kind of like pointer out, and I was quickly scanning, going up and down the columns in the newspaper. And even when I was doing it, I thought, why am I doing this? I'm not interested in this. This isn't, and it's weird. I couldn't stop doing it. And that's the closest I've ever come to what I felt was sort of like automatic writing or something, because I honestly kind of felt like my arm was being controlled. Again, not in a scary way at all. But here I am, going up and down these columns, and on the last page of this little supplement, here's an announcement, and the announcement is for a talk that was going to be given that very evening, presented by a man who was president of what is called Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship. And that organization was mentioned in one of the books I had read. And I went, whoa, wow. And immediately I made arrangements to go. So the talk was given at a church, a metaphysical church in St. Pete called Temple of the Living God. Well, from the moment I walked into the church that evening. I looked around, I saw the people, I could feel the energy, and it was like, this is it. I'm home. It was so strong. It was so familiar. It was so good for me, you know. It's what I needed. And I immediately started going to services. The minister of that church is a man named Leroy Zemke. He's still alive at this time, and he does fantastic work in his teaching. He does readings also for people. He's a very fantastic teacher. So he was offering some classes, and one of the classes he was offering was a meditation class, and I thought, I want that. I want to learn how to meditate. But, pardon my phone, you guys, I should have turned it off. That's how unprofessional I am right now, but I'll get better. So, anyway, I thought, oh, I want to study that. And get this, I was afraid to ask him. I thought I wasn't advanced enough to get into the class, that maybe I needed to be in the church longer or know more or whatever. But I got my nerve up, and I talked to him, and I said, could I come into that class? And, you know, he almost laughed, because I guess the way I asked it, it was sort of like asking, can I win the Academy Award? Or something. It was like something way beyond my reach and all. So there I was in the class. And in this class, we were really studying guided imagery, that form of meditation. And each week we would have different subjects, or we would have different ways of approaching meditation, sometimes for healing, problem solving, whatever. Or just meeting your inner teachers. Or I remember one time I had such a neat experience because we went up into the mountains and we were just communing with nature, and I heard the wind talking to me. It was the best experience. And it's just like you could imagine. Ooh, hello. You know, it was like, it was so cool. But it was very meaningful to me. Well, one evening, he said, choose someone in the group you don't really know very well or don't know at all, and ask their permission in meditation, ask their permission to know something about them. So I did that, and I chose a man I didn't know at all. He was a little man, small, and as I got to know him later, I found out very excitable person, very neat guy. We became, you know, sort of semi-friends or friends on a light level. So when I went to him and asked to know something, I saw this big letter C, and I thought, that relates to someone, I think it's a woman in his life. Then I saw him dancing, and it was very stylized, kind of like ballet. Then I saw this narrow, long pair of scissors, very pointy. That's it. That's what I got. We all went around and shared later what we received and who we went to. And after the class, he came running up to me and he said, how do you know me? And I said, oh, I don't know you. And he said, who's been telling you about me? And I said, oh, nobody. I don't know you. And he said, he couldn't believe what happened. He said, well, my ex-wife is Caroline. And he said, she's driving me crazy. Then he said, he used to be a professional dancer. And now, at that time, he was a hairdresser. And it was like click, click, click. And when he told me that, I had the exact sensation of someone pouring a bucket of cold water over me, like, and it was so shocking. My whole system was in shock. And I thought, how could that be? How did that happen? How did I know that? How could that be? And I was so shocked, I had to literally go back and sit back down in my chair and think about it. And I was supposed to be getting up to drive home, you know. I'm sitting there in my chair thinking about what happened. Well, Reverend Zemke came over, and I guess he could tell I was upset. And he said, Hillary, you're just very psychic. And no one had ever told me that. I didn't really think of that. I didn't realize that. And then he said, you can help people if you want to. You can use this to help people if you want to work with it. And so I got myself together. I drove home and I thought about it. This is what came to me. Oh, I had such faith. Burning crosses in my front yard. That was the image. And I thought, do I really want to do this? And I felt afraid of being treated with prejudice. And I worried about my children, that they would be treated with prejudice. But I thought, if I can help people, I want to help people. And so I said, yes, I want to work with this. I want to learn about it. I want to develop it. So what we did for 1 year, I met with Reverend Zinke every week, and he taught me how to give readings. And the real thing he taught me, one real thing that was what it was all about, he taught me that I could talk while I was meditating, and that it wouldn't pull me out of the meditation. And so, you see, for me, giving a reading is a form of meditation. When I give a reading to anyone, I go into meditation. And while I'm in meditation, I focus on them. And I think the way I do it, it's a little bit like holding your nose, running, and jumping in a pool. You don't think about it, you just do it. It's like a spontaneous action, you know. So for me, giving a reading, I don't think about it too much at all. If I do think about it, I would say what I think is, or what I imagine or pretend is, I already know them. And I not already know them, I know all about them. And that is the feeling I have when I give the reading, that I know them. And I'm just giving them feedback about what I know. So my journey began. And during that year that I was learning how to tune in and talk, any friend I had, in fact, anyone I knew who would just sit still for 10 or 15 minutes, I'd give them a reading. And I practiced on everybody. Everyone was my subject. And I'd give people, some of my friends, readings over and over and over, you know, but I was practicing. One day a lady called me that I didn't know, and it freaked me out. She wanted a reading. She'd heard that I gave readings. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. And she was going to pay me. And it was like, oh my God, if she gives me money, I can't make a mistake. And I didn't set, you know, a fee. I just said whatever. And in the beginning, I made $5 giving readings. That's what a lot of people paid me, $5. One day, I had to drive forever to go to a woman's house. Somehow, she talked me into going to her, not her coming to me. Construction was everywhere. It was a mess. It was frustrating. I got there, and she paid me $5, and I thought, I'm going to start setting a fee for readings. So, you know, my big-heartedness gave way to some kind of whatever in me, and I started setting fees for readings, although I'm not bad about, but I do very often bend and slide, you know, the fees around. Now, as all of this was developing for me, and, you know, the readings were developing and deepening, in the beginning when I started giving readings, the only thing I could feel or realize was that this person is a beautiful soul. That was it. And, you know, it's nice, but it's not very helpful to tell a person, you're such a beautiful soul, and that's it. And I had a really hard time bringing the information down into their day-to-day living. I guess when I was tuning in, I was hitting way up here, you know, up here on the soul level. And I wasn't hitting on, boy, you've had a lot of trouble with headaches lately. I wasn't, you know, on the day-to-day level. So for me, it was really hard to learn how to bring the work down so that people could apply it. Sort of like the teaching, people needed to apply it to their day-to-day living. I also had to get over just the fear of opening up. Like when I first started meditating, I'm going to drink some of my drink. Pardon me for a moment. Thank you. When I first started opening up and meditating, these faces would come to me that I would see. And they were ugly. They were all like, I don't know, kind of deformed. And they were even a little bit scary. They didn't feel good. And one after another would kind of float up into my field of vision. And finally, I would get to a point in which I just would stop. I quit that meditation. Later, I realized that those images were me. And I was tuning into aspects of myself that I didn't love, and that I didn't even like, and I certainly had not accepted. Also, I used to make an appointment with my inner teachers, like, I want to meet you tomorrow afternoon at 3:30. Well, I'm not great on time with anything, but I would show up. So I'd be sitting, in my place where I would meditate. 3:30, I'd be ready, and I would go into meditation to meet the teacher, and I would literally feel someone coming in the room. I could feel it. And I could feel that this person coming in the room was walking toward me. I could feel it. And they were coming closer and closer. I would always freak out. It was scary to me. And before they got to me, every time I would jump up and walk out of the room. And then I'd feel guilty, like I made an appointment with the teacher and then I ducked out on it, I had to learn a lot about overcoming fear and opening up. Whenever I was going to do any kind of like tuning in, I felt like I had to move my consciousness to this place that was so pure. Like all day long, I wouldn't do any housework, I wouldn't wash the dishes, I wouldn't do anything but try to be on this high level all day to be ready to do a reading. And I guess and think really in a way that was a kind of fear, that I wasn't okay, I wasn't enough. So learning how to overcome fear was a big part of my journey in learning how to open up spiritually. What I've learned, to kind of put it into a sort of simple, direct way to communicate about it, is I learned to relax. Just relax more. That is what helps me overcome fear. And relaxation can be just as simple as making sure you're breathing. Because generally, if you're afraid, you quit breathing. You start armoring yourself and reinforcing yourself, and you stop breathing. You don't breathe deeply. So learning how to breathe deeply can literally help you stay relaxed and open. It helps you stay open. I want to just make a few suggestions about what it means for you to enter this study or to be a student. First of all, being open, just like we're talking about. Be as open as you can be. That probably goes without saying. I want to suggest that you hold all beliefs very lightly, kind of on a tether. And they're a little bit like out here, not, you know, all jammed into you. They're sort of out here floating a bit like a helium balloon, and you're holding the string. I think of it, imagine your beliefs are like loose-fitting clothing. It's comfortable to be in, and you can move around. And know this, that as you grow and change, your beliefs, your truth will grow and change. Just know that. It's inevitable. Truth is not absolute. It's relative. And it's relative to your level of consciousness. So be prepared. Here and there, a belief will come in and it will blast all your other beliefs. And you'll go, whoa, you know, can this be true? And yeah, it can be for that moment, but not forever. And it's not so much that truth becomes disproven, although sometimes it does. But what actually happens is that truth becomes bigger. It becomes bigger. It grows. Be flexible. And flexible to me means willing to change. If you become a student and you're not willing to change, you're not going to be much of a student. You know, you won't benefit much from your studies. So flexibility. And all in all, I just hope you'll be drawn to studying with me and to taking the ideas I'll be presenting to you and at least holding them. You don't have to swallow them. Sort of like putting food in your mouth and you don't chew it up yet. You're just holding, you're just tasting it. You're letting that taste move through you. I suggest that you not limit your studies to me. Study other teachers or other teachings and compare them, because in doing that, you're going to know more about what hits home for you and what you believe will become clearer to you. I feel that study, as all things, it happens in a way that you get out of it what you put into it. If you just think about it once in a while, you know, like you listen to or watch the videos we're making, maybe you're even faithful and you watch them every week, and then that's it. That's your spiritual time. And you don't use it any other time, it won't mean much to you, and it won't make much of a difference for you. So my suggestion is to put all that you can into it, because then it will give back to you. And I just simply hope you will follow what we're going to be doing and enjoy it. Have fun in it. I do. I have fun in it. And I really know my teachers have a good sense of humor, my inner teachers. And I'm glad they do, you know. So thank you so much for being part of this work today. And we'll be making more videos for you. And Sometimes the videos will be a lot less personal in terms of my story, and but I will try very hard to keep weaving the day-to-day events into the teachings. Thank you so much. Take care, and all blessings to you. So I want to lead you in just a short guided meditation. And I want to say a few things that will apply always to your meditating. First, know that anything you need to do to be comfortable, you can do it. And I want you to do it. If you need to wiggle around a bit, clear your throat, cough, you need to change your position entirely, like get out of your chair and lay on the floor or vice versa. Whatever, scratch an itch, anything, whatever you need to do, give yourself permission to do it, and you can do that, and you can stay right in your meditation and keep right on going with it. And usually people feel more that urge to do those things at the beginning of meditating. But if it comes to you in the meditation, go right ahead, do whatever you need to do to be comfortable. If you hear a sound, like my phone, which I haven't turned it off yet, I need to. If you hear a sound, imagine that sound is just life unfolding around you. You're part of life. That sound is part of life. The two of you are in this together, and let it be just part of your meditation. And give it permission to be there. That's really what I'm saying. So, in this moment, find yourself comfortably seated. If you prefer to lay down, do that. Whatever position you want to be in physically, in order to be comfortable, do that. And now, in this moment, feel your body. Feel yourself in your body. Think of your body, your good and faithful servant. Always helping you, always supporting you. Imagine your body is very much like a pet. You take care of it as you would one of your animals. And you give it direction and guidance. Allow your attention now to be on your breathing. And allow yourself to breathe deeply As you are focusing on your breath, feel how good it feels to breathe. Every incoming breath is bringing a soothing wave of relaxation through your entire body. Every incoming breath is bringing a soothing wave of relaxation through your entire body. Every outgoing breath is carrying with it all of the frustration, all of the confusion, all of the stress of this day out and away from you. And when you feel that you have relaxed as much as you possibly can, find yourself relaxing even deeper. From this deeply relaxed space, you are in tune with energies that are normally beyond your reach. Allow yourself now to use your imagination and imagine that you are in a place that helps you relax, Create a space in your imagination that you are in that is deeply, deeply relaxing. Allow yourself to use your imagination and create your beautiful, relaxing place. And just be there. Allow yourself to receive whatever you need today. The support, the happiness, all of your needs are being fulfilled. All of your energy is being brought into balance. Allow yourself to receive all that you need, all that brings you balance and well-being. And now know that you can return to this special place anytime you wish. Just breathe another time into these beautiful energies. Gradually now, give thanks that you are connected Gradually allow yourself to return now to your surface level of consciousness. And when you feel safely anchored once again in your physical body, you can open your eyes. You might want to rub your legs, rub your hands together. You can touch your face. All of these things will help you once again to be anchored in your physical body, in the awareness you have, the awareness of your body. You can stretch and know that, as you could tell in our little exercise, we're just starting to practice relaxing, and what it is, just relaxing. It's very healing. Just to relax is so healing. And anytime you need to just de-stress, practice this little exercise. It's helpful. Thank you so much. Take care.